Yeah, we're going back into public. Thank you.
1,000 lumen light on top of the scope mount, sees the reflector off the can tin on the end, yeah. So you want to put it in the sun, can you put it on your tin? Your light.
Welcome back, everyone. And I will now hand over, because I'm head of the game today, to Sally. Community vision and experience.
Okay, so item number 25.7.7, we have Our Place in the World, a vision for Central Otago, and we have Rebecca and I'm sorry, I couldn't see Paula.
Thank you. Just before we start, we've got a little video to share with you that sort of comes up with the project. And features two of our councillors, and we arranged the popcorn at lunch as part of the deal. But if Wayne will just hard to get up.
Okay, hang
Now, fun.
on.
You don't ever listen to this.
Crank that noise. Yeah. That noise.
Skip this bit.
Come on.
The people of Central Otago. We want to create a vision for 50 years into the future, and Creating Tomorrow Together is about finding out what's important to us as the people of Central Otago. We want to create a vision for 50 years into the future and create something for our children and our children's children. A woman called Margaret Wheatley once said that there's nothing as powerful as a community that knows what it cares about. This is about finding out what we care about, what you care about, so that we can create that future together. Get involved.
Man, what do I love about Central Otago living here? The people, the climate, and the whole area.
I think the people. I think the people are here are fantastic. They're resilient. They look out for everyone else, and probably they're pretty harsh. They're hard on themselves and hard on other people. They demand high standards of everyone. But if something goes down or the chips go down or you need support, they're fantastic.
My favourite things is the outfit icon.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. We've all kind of grown up with each other. It's the same thing. Everyone knows each other. Everyone gets along quite well. So it's really nice.
For us to come here and to feel so welcomed and to be part of a place that gives you a sense of security and safety in its own. I think it's the diversity of people who are here in Central Otago, and it's always been that way, but more so now. I enjoy the climate. I enjoy the having my grandchildren nearby, which is awesome. Looking at the things that they can do here, we're really proud of having whakaruruhau and Uruuru Whenua, the Māori health provider. The Māori programs introduced at this school, and Te Reo Māori is offered as a subject. Te Ahurea behind all of those over the years. The best thing about living here in Alexandra is how safe we feel and how much further I could get life here than I could anywhere else in New Zealand. I could buy a home, I can get my son a good education, I have a great job, colleagues.
I'd really like to see like a thriving community. I think our cycle tracks trails have really set us up for that, and I can't wait to see the connection all the way from Queenstown through to Dunedin, because I think again it's a really great type of tourism because it's an active tourism.
If the community is functioning well and it gets what it wants in the sense of it needs a service centre or it needs swings at the playground or the swim pool open, well-being is a result of that. Well-being is not something you can regulate and say you're going to have well-being. So no, I think we're pretty fortunate. We've got a lot of it in this community.
What do I want it to look like for them? Still the safe community feel environment that we have. Still the same where you can walk down the street and take half an hour to walk like one block because you bump into people and have to have conversations. And then just more things for all the different types of people that live here, because it's great if you're into outdoor and sports and doing that stuff, but if you're not into that, there isn't as much things to do. So that could be the calls, kapaka, all of those. It doesn't just need to be about getting out on a push bike.
Not for like the young teenage life, but as you grow up, you kind of seek for that more socialising area, but like definitely like raising kids, safe environment, yeah, I think I'll definitely come back. I've spent a few years away, but I'll always come back and visit family. I'll probably will end up back here again later on in life.
So I'm hoping it still looks a lot like it does today. It doesn't get too, I don't know, overly populated, I suppose, and turn too much of a rat race. I think it's sort of quite nice the way it is at the moment, sort of hold on to its spot and paradigms without being too hectic, I suppose.
I would like keep the population the same, so like same amount of people, but I add a lot more things. So like we might have 3 skate parks, 3 kart tracks. Like that everyone can get a tank.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunity to develop your own business here and work-wise here in Central Otago. I mean, there's construction going on everywhere, there's work in general going on everywhere. I mean, the more you look, the more you see. So there's definitely not a lack of opportunity here in Central Otago. So I mean, it's a great place to come and to look at developing your future.
So why is it important to have your say? I think it's really, really important. Like you've heard some of the things that are key for me. That's just me. What about you? What do you think this community would be like? We need to hear from you, because without your voice, how can things change? If you want change, you need a voice up.
Good, Tim.
Yeah, John, it was awesome.
These two good luck. I was hosting that. That's a good reason why you did it on that day.
How does that not make you smile, feel amazing about living here and help reminder about how amazing it is to live here? And so this project has been such an amazing project to be part of, to get out and to hear our community about what makes this place special and what do they want to see. And it's hard to have a conversation with the community about visualising 50 years into the future. One of the techniques we used from off script, I'm going back to script in a minute. One of the techniques we used to do that was, I had a picture on my Facebook came up of a rail car crossing the bridge just down here in Alex in the late 60s going to Dunedin for shopping. And I put up that picture and showed this was 50 years, and this was just over 50 years ago. And imagine in this time, the time if you reflect back to that 50 years, reflect forward 50 years and what it might look like then. So it was the most amazing project I think I've been involved in any job. So thank you. Now back to my script. So today represents a significant milestone for the Central Otago District Vision Project. This report seeks formal endorsement from Council for the Central Otago, our place in the world, to cement its role as a foundation document for future strategic thinking about Central Otago. This vision is the articulation of the aspirations of the people of Central Otago. It represents the voices of all those who participated in the process, from the many that attended the initial stakeholder workshops to those who took part in ward-based focus groups, or were one of the many who completed the survey or participated in the video. It captures the views of the young people who took part in the process and told us about their dreams for the future with 3 skate parks and, and maybe a McDonald's or 2 came up. Excuse me. OKR helped ensure that the mana whenua were visible in the vision for the future. In July last year, Christine Angus from Angus and Associates provided an overview of the data and the community research through council, and a draft of the vision was circulated to councillors at that time as well. Staff continue to refine it. There's not a whole lot of change from what you saw then to what you see today. This work has been used to shape the community outcomes that have been approved and included in the draft long-term plan, and are being used to help shape the revised economic development strategy that Nick's working on. And that's the type of thing that it's there to do. It's to lay the foundations for future work to really think, well, what does this actually mean? How do we translate this into action? It is hoped that this work will also be used by external stakeholders and entities that have an interest in Central Otago to ensure that their work is based on the aspirations of the people who live here. Our next project in this work stream is to develop a set of indicators to ensure that we can track progress towards the community's aspirations. We'll be coming back to Council in due course to seek input into that process. In closing, I'd like to acknowledge everybody who's been involved in this project today. It's the result of many different contributors, the community and staff, and every one of them has influenced its outcome, and I just wanted to thank them. very much. And happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions, councillors?
That was so cool. That made me feel so proud to be from
Yeah.
here, and you guys, Jill and Sally, did an amazing job along with everybody else.
Sally itch.
Yeah. And
I was just gonna say that.
I totally forgot that I was on.
I haven't had a look at any of those news before, but that lady was spoke about it being so safe and actually about to get on.
Yeah.
And that young tradie saying you can see yourself up here for life. And just hearing people that I don't know them, we don't know them, just people in our community.
Yeah.
Tells me we're doing a fantastic job as a council, that they can feel like that.
Often people who've been here a long time take how safe it is for granted. And it's people who come here, help you remember how safe it is and how important that is.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is that those people probably don't fill out a submission form, may not fill out a submission form. But in that format, we've captured what we really want to hear. And to them, it really does mean something.
Molly's dad's gonna be stoked she's coming back here.
Yeah.
Video now.
I think it's a really important, with the turn right at the end, when you see step up, have your voice. I mean, that could have come at a better time right about now, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So looking at what we've got with the report that's there and what we're being asked to endorse, which is Central Otago, our place in the world, a vision for Central Otago District. Apart from those words, what does it otherwise look like? What's the collateral for it? Is there like a guide or something that backs that up? I know we talked about some of it's been used into the long-term plan, but is there anything else in terms of saying here goes the vision for it? Is that going to be a thing apart from the report, or am I missing something?
There's a couple of things happening. First is the what did I call them? The indicators. And so how do we measure progress? How do we know that we're working in the right way? So that's a piece of work that I'm currently just about to try and write an RFP for, is to say what indicators exist and are there some that we need to some bespoke indicators that measure progress towards the things that matter most to this community. So that's a piece of work that's happening. Then we're working with the regional identity and our world of difference. And it was fascinating that really the conversation with Okaha helped us mature our own thinking about how does this piece of work fit with a world of difference and how do they sit together as one piece, because what this research did was really confirm the values that are outlined in a world of difference, and it really confirmed that they hold true. And so Paula, you might be best to speak to, but what we're wanting to do next to visualise all this and show it to the community is pull all that pieces of work together.
And it was invaluable for us to have this piece of work done to contemporise our regional identity, so we had current voices, current faces. That is also reflecting and respecting the past, but keeping that future vision as well. So that's the platform that we will be using. And people say, who is Central Otago? What are they? We'll look at our regional identity. How have we built that? Is through the move through this revision. Yeah.
But one of the things that's going to be challenging is that world of vision, world of difference 20 years ago was the way it was then. It still hasn't changed. The values of the community are the same, but we're going to go through unprecedented growth, where the first thing that came out of those young ones is we don't want it to change, we want it to stay the same. But the young kid who wanted 3 skateboard parks, he's quite entitled to have 3 skateboard parks, as long as there's a mechanism to fund that, and through that will come growth.
You want to own that child?
But the point is, when you look at the young builder, he's going to be having a young family that wants a skateboard park, and he's setting his business up here. So I don't know how you can't measure it any differently than take a snapshot of those people and everyone else and say what was their sentiment then is here, and take another snapshot and do the same thing again in 5 years' time and see what the sentiment is.
That's the value of the integrated data, that's right, how we're tracking and that's something we all need to, I mean we should, because that way you just keep the current.
But I think if you read back to the time when you set world of vision up as an identity, that everyone was very happy then because Central had this going on, this going on.
So can I just ask, what's the relationship between the world of difference
is the tagline, and our place in the world is the tagline.
That's the next piece, is bringing those two together.
The one getting so part of the other.
The world with difference will remain. It's title.
The correct place.
It's the project title, if you like. So this is just a moment in time for that project.
Because the last thing we want to do is start.
Oh, we're not rebranding or anything, no, it's a world of difference.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you go.
When I read through what you put together for our vision and those sort of page and a half, and we went back and forth a wee bit with the draft and talking through it, and there's nothing in there that I think that doesn't fit with the values that we have here. And other people might have a different opinion, but I just think it well and truly captures the essence of being in Central Otago and what it means for people.
You know, because there's been a lot of discussion about culture and what does culture mean? And what this has helped us realise is our identity is our culture, is our regional identity, our real difference is our culture, you know, as well as, you know, and so that as well as the ethnicities that are changing and our demographics that are changing, but our identity is who we are.
I know that in the long-term plan, we did have a one pager, but we did talk a long time ago, when we went to Waitaki, and they had a really cool little kind of circular graph with their key message on a one pager, or I guess even for councillors. So when we're making decisions, we can bring it back to those.
Nick and I have been working on something just today. So it's sort of that next step as well about where does it all fit in terms of council planning processes. Where does this fit with the regional identity, with the CODC's vision, with the long-term plan? And so we're just trying to visually depict that so that it's easy to do that. And I think also in terms of that one page that I think you're thinking about, those indicators will help us articulate that as well, because they're more of the so what's.
Yeah.
You know, and we really need that piece to do something like what you're thinking, I think.
Great. Okay, any other questions, feedback?
Yep. So to me, then Rebecca's noted a couple of things that are going to happen next. And I just think that the recommendations and what we resolved today should actually not just formally endorse what's there, but should actually note what's happening next, because otherwise, we've just done something tick, but we should be noting those two particular things you said that are work in progress, and any others that should be there. I think we should note them as part of the resolution.
So Graham, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? C, note that a set of indicators to track progress will be developed and brought back for approval. And D.
Yep.
Notes that work to align the district vision with the regional identity work will continue and brought back. How's that, Neil?
Yeah, I think that just picks up those two issues and makes sure that we as a governance group have an oversight and have some expectations of saying this is not just done, stuck in a corner somewhere up on a wall and never to be seen again type thing, but is going to live and breathe. Because one of the great things about Central Otago, the World of Difference, I remember pretty vividly when it was first launched, and it's enduring, and the work that you've done should be the same. And it may need to be refreshed as it goes, but I think those two things sit side by side and need to be sort of there as things that we can refer back to. And Sally, picked it up, having that one pager type thing that says, here goes the stuff that guides what we do here.
Yeah, and we might put it up in a frame.
I don't know how
In place of the Mount Gary.
I don't know how you're going to measure them. It's going to be very hard to set a measurements to.
I guess I think, I remember I had this experience once where I was putting up a physical activity strategy, and I had a measure at the time because councillors were saying, well, how are you going to measure success towards this? He said, all right, that the number of people in Dunedin who exercise 5 days a week grows by 5% the next 5 years. And I was like, how can you just work that out? but it was a measure that got put in and that was then achieved. And so it's that type of industry that look, I'll go away and talk to people who do that stuff for a living. I don't want us to, we don't have data analysts here. We don't have people who can make data. And so we need to try and find indicators that exist, but there might be one or two areas that actually it's useful to invest in, to say this really matters to us and we need to measure it in a way that might be surveying our community.
But I guess what my point is, to see those two people in that video, it'll be very hard to get a better result than what they are for our community.
That's right.
And you may have some people that are unhappy about their insurance. But to me, to come to this province from another region and feeling you're so safe, that trumps all of it. And if that lady felt that wasn't the case 5 years' time, we've failed.
Yeah, and there are data sources.
So that's the measure.
There are data sources that can come in, safety as well.
Yeah.
You can put crime rates.
Dunedin, well, see, and so Dunedin was lucky enough to be part of the, what is it called? Life City, there's some survey, what is it called? City, yeah, some big survey that goes to all the metro areas and quality, I think, in it. And it measures, because often when you talk about safety, people use crime stats. But for me, it's not about crime stats, it's about perceptions of safety, which is exactly what you're talking about. And the quality of life measures perceptions of safety. Do you feel safe is the question that's asked. And it may be that data is not available, we need to collect it. Because I do think it's an indicator of success for this district.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So the recommendation is that the council receives the report and accepts the level of significance, formally endorses Central Otago, our place in the world, a vision for Central Otago District. C, notes that a set of indicators to track progress will be developed and brought back to council for approval. D, notes that work to align the district vision with the regional identity work will continue and the results will be brought back to council. Can I have someone that moves that? Thanks, Joe, and Tracy will second that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Right. Right. Item number 25.7.
Just ask.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Have we got, is that video available to the public yet?
It has been, but we can re-release
Can you
it.
send it to all of us so we can
Yeah,
share?
we might do what we did.
How do we get the stars to autograph it?
Just come and see us after the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was thinking of Francie and Louise. What are you talking about?
Come on, Neil, never like to have something.
I had a dried cracker.
We had a lovely lunch.
We will do a small edit, I mean, release the video, maybe. Only because essentially to a survey that no longer exists.
Well, let's not do that.
Yes.
Right,
So
thank you.
we'll look and-
Well, I'll go to that.
Correct. Okay, item number 25.7.8, we've got the Tuhura Otago Museum Draft Annual Plan, and we have the same Rebecca, Dylan, and Paula.
Thank you. First off, an apology from Ian, the director of the Otago Museum. He wanted to be here but had an alternative view, something else, and I said to him, please don't change that, but he has offered to come at another time if you would like to hear with it, because he loves coming to talk to you directly. And so he has made that offer, and if you'd like that to happen, I'm more than happy for him to arrange a time to come present to council. Would that be? Yeah.
Yeah, this was nice to hear from you.
Okay. So that said, Otago Museum is seeking a 2.1% increase to their 25-26 levy, and this is less than what was anticipated in the budget amount. So last year I did a similar report. That time they indicated that they might require a higher amount, so I put that amount in the budget, but they come back and see what the improvement comes. This report suggests adjusting the figure in year 2 onwards to 38,416, which is the museum's indicated levy for the next financial year. And so if we get that in now, it just helps that budget process going forward. There's no additional feedback suggested, but I would like to note the support of the district's museum, that the district's museums have recently received from Tuhura. And this is just last week or the week before, there was a team that came from Otago Museum. It was their Tonga Māori curator, Dr. Gerard O'Regan, along with Lana Oram, and an intern who happened to be one of Peter's whanaukā, came to town, and they went to the Cromwell Museum, the Clyde Museum and Central Stories to look at all their Māori artefacts and to help those museums understand their collections better. And we got to go to a welcome over in Central Stories, and we discussed a collection that had been given from Graham Bishop, which was just incredible about what we have here in this place that we didn't really know as much about as we could, you know. I felt so privileged when I learned in a little half-hour slot about these amazing things and the different tools and stuff that have been found in our area. So it was, and I felt so blessed that Otago Museum offers their staff to come and help our wee museums with that sort of thing. And one of the people that the natural history curator, and so one of the key project leads on the Moa footprint piece of work. So it was great to have them in town. The district's museum, so they hugely benefit. And I just wanted to thank Tūhura publicly for their support, and I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions?
What may come of those footprints of the Moa?
They're working with there's a group up there to there's a group that this guy's working with from up in the area, the Kaiburn something. And so then I think they're working on different application panels. But more than that, I don't know the details, so I could find out.
Well, I think it's something that we probably should be involved in a wee bit, because it could be quite significant over time, whether they even transit push the river out, change it all where it was, but you know, there could be an opportunity to put concrete ones or something back in the river to replicate the originals. Because since the new business groups got involved in Ramford, there's Moa trails and stuff like that, so you know, I think probably, I don't think it's wrong. I think we didn't have enough say and involvement in that at the start for our community, because it could really be a tourist link. And four players and trails, and there's a lot of people now interested in that, so I think we want to be involved in some way, because to me, they got taken out very, very hastily with the regional council and our council at the time, with really not much consultation with our community. But it could still be quite a significant tourist attraction in 50 to 100 years time.
Agreed. Any other questions? Okay, so the recommendation is that we receive the report and accept the level of significance, approve the request to fund a proposed levy increase of 2.1% in 2025-26 for the Tūhura Otago Museum, noting this is an additional $767 and will increase the payment from $36,530 to $37,297 from existing budgets. Notes that the projected level amount for the 2026-27 financial year is $38,416 and adjusts the budget in the 26-27 to 33-34 financial years to $38,416.
Happy to go into Sally.
Thank you. And seconder, thanks Lindley. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Yes, we actually got a savings. Okay, so item number 25.7.9, the Cromwell Memorial Hall operating decisions, and we have Jen and David.
Hello.
Does everyone have
I'm gonna,
Yes, everyone's with you.
yeah.
Wayne's asking.
This will be part of my story, actually. I might do a bit of a trip through Newman Lane.
Okay.
So.
We haven't got all done.
I know, this is only 10 minutes.
No, you can sleep.
Are we starting in 1984?
85, thank you. Yes. So this week actually marks 1 week from Anzac Day, when Memorial Hall and Cromwell first started coming down. So we're sort of 1 year into this project, which is kind of cool. It's pretty cool.
I guess, time this week for us. But we are about sort of September, October last year, we identified that obviously we need to start thinking about how we're going to operate this thing. And so early this year, we had some funding as part of the project for essentially using consultants to be able to build a bit of an operating model. And we made the decision to use that to employ somebody that could work with me to bring it to life and to be able to leverage what other people are doing around the country, lift and shift some of their models and do it here. We thought that was a much more efficient use of money. And that's where Jen came in and joined as our facility experience manager. So Jen's background has been with us for council for 10 years. There we go. And came out of regional identity and Dylan's comms team. So knows a lot about our council, our events, and bringing all this stuff to life. And that's also my background. So I've come out of a bit of sort of construction events and all that kind of stuff too. So the last probably 2 or 3 months, we've been working with the Connell Community Board to be able to get some of their ideas and also reflect back on the 2021 LTP and what was, I guess, consulted on with the community then and the level of service we're hoping to achieve with a building like this. And so we're currently underway building a $45.8 million building, and we're quite a few months into that now. And we have begun the process of obviously building that operating model with a targeted open date of 1 July 2026. So we're about 15 months away from opening. We've got a lot to do in those 15 months. So for want of a better term, we are building this thing while we're flying it. We are building the operating model while we fly it. And I guess a little quick bit of an overview of the process is we're going to the community board first and our stakeholders to ask, I guess, how they want to use the building, going to the community board to get their support and understand that and find and get a resolution for a report to recommend to council to essentially resolve and keep things, I guess, moving forward. And so there is a little bit of a diagram in the report that sort of depicts that, and so if you are comfortable with that, we'll keep moving forward. If there's any gaps, just sort of let me know, and we'll try and look things at as much as we can. As part of that, Councillor Sarah Brown would be part of our project team to help bring this to life and just keep that connection between the community board, council, and us as staff. So so we can keep moving at pace. So I guess as we've worked through costs, we've got clear on the level of service from the community and what that's going to look like. When we first started going through the financing and I guess the modelling of all of this, the level of service that was, I guess, requested and what that looked like when we first modelled came at 2.3 million to operate that building on an annual basis, and that was to really showcase it. It is a beautiful building, and it's able to operate the building at almost that concierge level, that sort of gold-plated level. And we worked through that with the community board on what this could look like. And a key thing that the community board said to us was, we really want our community to be able to utilise this as much as possible, get as many people through this fall in the first year, but also throughout its life too. So to be able to do that, we need to make it as accessible as possible and try and operate it as efficiently as possible as well. So we have, as part of the workshop, we've sort of landed on around about 74-hour opening hours for the building across 7 days. And what we would like to also do is to do a full review of how it's operating in 3 years' time. Now, to be able to achieve a really good sort of cost-efficient model, we need to be doing a few things like leasing out some of the buildings, so leasing out the cafe, the cinema. There's a large commercial kitchen in there as well, and that's to commercial operators who can, I guess, be able to operate it commercially and take the economic gains for that, and it also offsets some of our costs as well. So you'll note there in the first year, if we are looking at the financial part of the community board paper, the first year we have a fairly low revenue income. That's really just around our commercial leases. And the reason that's low is because it is very, it's a fairly high spec building. We've got a new team. There's going to be a few kinks to iron out in the first year. And don't want us to commit to a really high level of revenue in the first year and not achieve what we wanted for the community. So you will notice that revenue increases over the coming years out to about year 5 at its maturity, sitting around at $400,000 or $500,000 in revenue, and that's roughly on target with how we operate our other community facilities. So our swimming pools operate about a 1/3 user pays and a 2/3 sort of ratepayer funded. The next part of this project is we are just working through the fees and charges structure, and there'll be sort of 2 major components to that. One will be a commercial structure. So when Taylor Swift comes to play, we'll charge her more than what we would charge, say, the local pipe band or the local fine time theatre wanting to practice, as an example. So the next step on the fees and charges is to present that to the community board and get their feel, and then to council with that as well, just to see if we're on the mark and get some feedback from yourselves as well. So I guess just to give you an idea of costs, we are building, which you guys have approved, a facility that is a little over 3,000 square metres. And at its capacity, it can hold about 800 people in the gala hall and all the meeting rooms. And if the museum was full, that's sort of the amount of people that would be moving around that facility. Naturally, a facility of that size comes at a bit of a cost. And just to give you a couple of examples, our electricity bill and our insurance bill will sit somewhere around about that 300 to 350,000 a year, essentially before we even sort of open doors. And then I guess to get a little bit of a breakdown of utilisation, we have proposed, as you can see in there, the running costs sit at around about 1.5 million. So we've been able to reduce, I guess, costs down to, instead of having, say, 2 people on the front desk, we would only have 1, as an example. Instead of having a layer of sort of production assistants and things like that, right now we're just proposing 1 in the 3rd year and see how that goes, and we might look to ramp up. But essentially, we're looking at our sort of minimum viable but sort of maximum utilisation options, and we will be working that building fairly hard, 74 hours, and the number of staff that we are proposing to be in there. But just, I guess, when it is operating, give you a bit of a feel of what staffing numbers would look like from a casual point of view. When we do have, say, a wedding or a concert where we've got our capacity of the gala hall of 500, our sort of, from a health and safety point of view, we have an efficiency ratio when it comes to staff and people. When it comes to, things like evacuations, we try to have 1 staff member for every 100 guests. So as an example, if we have a wedding or a concert on a Saturday night, we would have 5 of our own trained staff. It would be, sort of first aid trained, evacuation trained, to be in there, as well as other wait staff if they have their own caterers and things like that too. So, you can kind of see how the numbers in that gala hall can get up sort of quite quickly, and I guess why the staff costs sit where they do as well. Then I guess I just mentioned before around the commercial lease, our last workshop with the CCB was they were comfortable with us looking to go out to see what sort of expressions of interest were in the market, to have the cafe, the cinema and catering kitchen looked at as a commercial lease operating in there, and that would obviously help offset our costs considerably as well. The other piece where we were looking originally at that 2.3 million is we're going to be leaning more on our own shared services here. So we've got a people and culture team and IS team, things like payroll, Cell, GM, people who work as part of council now being able to streamline some of that stuff. So we have to set up our own payroll and all that stuff as an structure. Some, you'll note in there, we did talk about potentially going to a CCO, and a CCO, depending on how it operates, does come with its own costs. And so that's part of the proposal in the first 3 years, is to be able to operate it ourselves as a council facility. We keep it really nice and close to I guess council staff, but also to yourselves as well. And we can offer performance reports and all of that kind of stuff that that facility is going with, I guess, a full sort of sliding door moment in 3 years' time going, is it doing what we had hoped, the price we had hoped, and delivering to the community what we had hoped, or do we want to change how we're operating the facility? And I think the level of experience that we have budgeted for is probably that sort of bronze to silver experience. It's, It's a beautiful building, and going to be leveraging the beauty of that building rather than having, I guess, too many people in there and too many staff in there. And the commercial lease will help offset that considerably as well. We'll also lean on our own current contractors. So we've got people like Delta who do all our garden contracts around the district. We have cleaning contractors that we would look to utilise, and sort of anything that we kind of already have agreements with, we would use to run this building, and that helps offset more costs as well. And then just to give a little bit more of context, and this one's sort of for you, Nigel, is, our pools sit around about 1.7, 1.8 million a year to run. We are right now offsetting that cost to the tune of about $500,000 per pool. In things like swim school, admissions, retail, and I guess that's sort of proof that as we start to get the level of experience right and get the level of service and the product right, we have more and more people come through. And just an example for the pools, we now have 2,500 students, so pretty much 10% of the population is part of our swim school, which helps offset our costs for the user pays. And so I think looking at what we have in the Cromwell Memorial Hall as that gets up to maturity, we will see that reliance on the rate paid. I don't probably see it sort of dropping below that 1/3, 2/3. I think that's probably a good sort of level to be at. And as the last probably piece is, when it does come to staffing, we are looking to open it on 1 July 2026. And so that means our staff will be fully operational by then. So we'll likely look to start employing people to be on the ground, starting to learn some of these things from about October, November. We do start some of the handover commissioning in that time. So our electrical and AV commissioning starts at that time. So it would be great to have a person on board who was able to understand and be part of that, I guess part of that training and implementation of those systems, so they're ready to go by 1 July. So there is a fair bit to do, and we are running against the wind a little bit on time. And I guess we've seen a couple of things like in what's happened in Chicago, where some of they haven't been able to open, but it's not quite ready yet. So I am fairly confident that where we're sitting right now, it's sort of on par with other facilities around New Zealand, the benchmark 4 around New Zealand, just on the closest down to Luther. Where Ed came from, Whirinaki up in the Huts, same with Todong and as well. So costs have been based on other people who run a similar level of service, and I think we'll be able to provide the community with a product that is efficient and good to be able to really sort of think into in 3 years' time. So is that 10 minutes yet?
Catches an out clock, it's good.
Sounds nuts, but I think it's structured wrong in the sense the community board, if they get off on a tangent.
Yeah.
With district-wide funding, it's a district asset.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I guess it feels like they're giving us the guidance how they want it run.
Yeah.
When really for it to work, it has to run at the district-wide.
That's
what I think. So why aren't we having to say how we would like to see it run, whether it's on the community board, think along the same line? Because at the end of the day, if we decide we want something else, we haven't even seen how they're thinking
it. Yeah.
And even just picked up on the report to the community board, late night Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Well,
yeah.
To me, that would be unrealistic at the start of your facility. You do that only after you found information come along that you warranted that.
Yeah.
And it worries me that the reason the hall is so big is that the community board had a wish list and their eyes might have been bigger than the apple.
Yeah.
So I just, that's the other part. It got to that elevated because of the wish list. Now it's there. We really want to be able to have a say.
Yeah.
At an entry point or at a beginning, I guess I'm saying.
Yeah.
I understand we may be totally aligned.
Yeah.
But I just feel that as the whole thing is paying for it, it's such a big ticket item.
Yeah.
That we really want to feel like we have a say, or
Could I just further this choose or supporting what he's saying? On the wee diagram you got on page 271, where it's got at the bottom report to next council approval. Wonder whether those words might be just changed for discussion.
Yeah.
Just to reflect
Yeah.
change the status to this proposed.
So you can't put us back on that, Stu, if we get their ideas first, come back for discussion.
Well, I mean, it's a big ticket item.
Yeah.
And we could have a complete change of board next year of people who don't wish to be on the supporting of the cooperative.
Yeah.
And it's there, might have a completely different business approach.
Yeah.
Maybe pro-business, they could be really puts a vote in.
Yeah.
But we need to be in thinking of how that's going to be looking. Because we're funding.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
We're funding the difference where the community board will fund. They're agreeing, well, all I'm saying is we need to be a part of some of that discussion.
Yeah.
First.
But council Institute, this report simply says the board goes first as digitalisation proposed, and then it comes to council for support, adoption, ratification or whatever. And there's nothing in this report that's changing that. So I don't know what your concern is.
Just that, why can't we be a part of the leading discussion as well?
You're in it now. It goes to the board first, and then the council says, right, now your turn to put your lens on it. Where the community in Cromwell was saying, this is what we see. Now the council says, well, we agree or we don't. I don't know how else you do it.
Well, I'm saying, we have a think tank about how we'd like to see it run from a council district-wide approach rather than led from Cromwell. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's got to be led from somewhere, and the whole mandate for district funding stuff was to still make sure that the boards and the wards were involved, and your ward in particular was really strong about that. They still need to have a voice, and this is how we decided it should work. So I'm not sure what your concern is.
That the commercial running part of it is different than the ratepayer funding facility, I guess I'm saying.
Oh yeah, so today you get to decide what you don't like or do like about what's been recommended by the board. Where's the problem?
So the commercial part around leasing out and things like that, I guess that's kind of consideration here. So that hasn't come from the board yet. We've just had a workshop on that. So the report will go to the board where they would say, yeah, we're in support of doing these commercial activities. Then that would then come to the next council meeting, which would be on 28, saying, hey, this is what the board thinks, likely around leasing and things like that. This council thing. Yep, we think that's a great idea too. Cool, off we go. And to Neville's point, we've just started a community board to get their thoughts, so we can have this conversation with, I guess, some information here. But that the commercial part around leasing and stuff is still, it's just had its workshop, so we still need the board to come here and have the conversations.
And I guess if we have another idea,
yeah,
how do we get that in front of you? Because it's going to directly come via the board.
That would be your opportunity, and so like the 28th, I'll have all the board's information, then we come to you and you'll go, hey, leasing's a cool idea, how about this, and this, we'd like this, and this as well. And then that would be part of the resolution, we just take that back to the board. And I guess that's what the districtisation thing did as well, as it comes up, it go down. And an example of how that's worked is BCB yesterday, we went through the process of all other Wanako Hub, and it came from VCB saying, yeah, this is what we want to do with the council to be approved subject to full funding. And then we did the same report back again saying, hey, this is what council decided. It can go ahead, but it needs to be subject to funding. And that came too. So I guess we are operating this through the new system that was created through distributisation too. So it will that's essentially on their staff to make sure that it does keep going up and down.
Sorry, can I just I think there's a case to be made, and I just putting it out there as a possibility. Something as big as a project like this, which has such wide implications for our whole ward, should that be going through all of the boards? Recognising that this is, a project that was started in Cromwell and driven by the Cromwell CCB, but this does have big implications for everyone else, and we need every ward to be feeling like that facility is also for them. Maybe there's an opportunity for Maniatoto, Teria and Vincent to also contribute to what that could look like to serve their communities.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm just conscious of timing, like we've got 15 months to do this. Yeah. So we are running a wee bit against the wind, but I guess making sure we're bringing their thoughts and opinions back to this table. Mm-hmm. That's doable. Yeah. Okay.
Could I just, I tend to support what Stu's saying, and it's just that we know in the past that things have come back from community boards and the approval is required, it's just become a rubber stamp in council. And that is no longer the case. And as you say, with the project this big, the community board's got the benefit of a workshop and discussion and pros and cons before it makes a recommendation. And when it comes to council, you've got one council agenda item, and you've got to make sure we give sufficient time to understand the pros and the cons before we the final. Because once we've agreed and approved, that's it. It's signed and sealed, and it's just a feeling you don't want to. Again, with the project this size, you don't want something that's so rushed that you've got 30 minutes to discuss, but the community board might have spent 3 hours with it. And I think that plus the recognition of justification of who's actually paying the piper. So I don't know, community boards considering on their own agendas might is necessary, but I do think that this council needs to be fully backgrounded on decisions that come through. So that we know, like I said,
Most of those workshops that Cromwell Community Board have had are public workshops that all of us can attend, and if we can't attend in person, we can all watch them online. But there is going to be more and more pressure on elected members to be doing things outside of coming to the meeting. We are going to have to be across, we're going to need to be across this. It's a huge project. We need to make sure we're getting it right from day one, because we do not want a building that is potentially open 74 hours a week and only has someone in there paying 10 hours a week. That's going to be a big problem.
And we need to be more across that now than ever, because in the new triennium, there's only going to be one councillor back to each board. So it's going to become more and more important. The simple reality is this council has always had the power of final decision on a lot of stuff that boards have done. That has seemed to apply a rubber stamp reflected the fact that the funding was coming from a source that councillors generally weren't concerned about because it wasn't out of their ward. Under the new regime with district funding, it just means, as Tamer has said, our job as councillors is going to be actually far more reaching out than what we've ever done in the past. We've relied on those boards to do what council's otherwise done. That's how the delegations worked. So yeah, it behoves on us as the governors at the council table to go to these meetings, whether you're part of the team or not. You know, whether you're appointed back councillor or not, you shouldn't need to be involved and understand it, because otherwise, to David's point, you're going to be doing a lot of double handling. Time frames are going to get pushed out, and nothing's going to get done. And look how slow we are at doing most things anyway. Don't want to make it worse. And I mean that in a kind way, not as a criticism.
Thanks, thank you.
Tracy, sorry, Tracy wanted to know. She's been sitting patiently.
I was going to say something else. Pick up on your point, is that would be a massive help if, you know, because where they are public workshops, you know, have been public, and it would be a massive help if we did get everybody to come along to those, to even listen and get thoughts and things like that. Because we've only got 15 months, so you know, in that time, how many council meetings is that? You know, there's not a lot for us to make decisions, keep people informed, and keep things moving forward by the time the store starts to swing open. So, it's a good shout and be very helpful. Yeah.
There's no reason those workshops can't be council and community board at the same time, and that we can do that at the same time. So it's not a decision or recommendations coming from the board to be rehashed. We can make that as a one group. So I take it across both. There'll be no harm in that, would there? But they're going to be problem.
So my question is, we've talked about the 3-year period. I'd like you to reassure me that it's not just a set and forget for 3 years. That this is actually going to be very carefully managed. If for some reason 6 months in we find that there's something major that's not working, like you talk about the hiccups in the road, we're not just staying on the 3-year path because that's what we've settled on. But or is it a 3-year set and forget?
No, I don't. Given it's new, I don't think that's wise. But you know, if we talk about different people around that, we add that into the resolutions here. If this is part of it, you know, we add an F that says from 1 July we want 6 monthly performance reporting from all over board. And you know, I think that's really a good way to your point to just what's working well, what's not, you know, what do we need to tweak? So we're probably at it as a resolution.
And we do have to do an LTP in 2 years' time, so we'll have to recast the budgets, all of that.
Yeah.
So in some ways, we'll have to probably do some sort of mini review to fold that into another future 10-year funding.
I guess it will be really handy that, in 2 years' time, and we have a community member who's all over the, council papers, et cetera, and he turns around and says, well, you continued on with this plan and you could see that you were losing $80,000 or $90,000 a year. Why, how can you, all of us as councillors, why don't you do something about it when you can see?
Yeah.
So, just so that there is,
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, is 6 monthly frequent enough or?
Well, it probably should be for the first 3 years anyway.
Yeah.
Because you get a trend, and like it's gonna, because it's going to start up like a new McDonald's, everyone's gonna flock to it.
Yeah.
It depends on that.
It'll take a lot of work to get it underway.
Yeah.
just, and this is, you may not be able to answer, I don't need any details if it is possible, but is there any early expressions of interest in the commercial lease side of things? Have you had anyone just?
Yeah. I've had 2 people approach us, one from Queenstown and then a franchise as well. So, yeah.
So that it's generating a bit of a buzz.
Yeah. So for fairness though, we will put an expression of interest in it and given the way that the hall is with the cafe, a cinema and in a commercial picture, we'll put it out fairly generically so people can look at how they run their business and then come back and go, I'd like to use this and this and maybe the commercial picture on Monday and Tuesday to do catering, so once we get those back, that will also come around this table as well. So and again, that has to go through the process first, that we'll come back here for discussion.
So can I ask, is there in your budgeting provision for a dedicated marketing person?
Yeah. Okay.
Could I just note on your indicative budgeting on page 276, I'm assuming we can remove that $150,000
the CCO
to the CCO for the first 4 years, 3 years?
Yeah, so the budgeting, the net cost at the bottom, essentially where that's what we can use. Then anything below that, so things like interest on the loan and things like that, there still has to be a discussion here around council through land sales and all that kind of stuff. So anything below that is a part of the operational cost. And I haven't put any budget in for the CCO at all. That's just for you guys to get an idea of where that discussion is. Yeah.
And I'm assuming that the outfitting of the museum is on the same July 126 deadline.
That's and I guess just for council as well, fortunate enough to have our team come to the party to the tune of 1.1 million on that, and Jen and the team have got 2 applications in the lottery, and then we have one going into OCT very soon. So and we just had a bit of a kick-off with that this week, a bit of a start kick-off on that part of the project. So that would be, as I mentioned, there's a lot to do with the 1 July. So, and if we can keep the process as tight as possible, and if we can make things as open as possible, that would be massively beneficial to lots of staff.
Right, any other questions? Wayne, have you got an additional?
Yep.
Thought?
But it's D because it made no sense putting it there, I thought. So D is the new bit.
I see, so we're still doing, okay. So the recommendation is that we receive the report and accept the level of significance. B, approve that the Cromwell Memorial Hall be run as a council-run facility with funding included in the 25 to 34 long-term plan. C, approves a full operational review to be completed after 3 years of being open in the 2030-2040 long-term plan. D, directs staff to produce a 6-monthly report to council on operational performance following the opening of the facility. E, approves that Cromwell Community Board member Sarah Brown be appointed as an advisor to the Cromwell Memorial Hall project team. And F, notes the process the operations team will go through to provide Cromwell Community Board and council with regular updates on operational progress to the facility opening in July 2026.
Do you want to let me know about the change that the workshops would be open to, I think they're told that they're open to everybody to work with, yeah.
Other than be open to, do we want to actively say that's a workshop with council and community board? And then
Wayne, can we put
we're
those
not
workshops
rehashing the same thing?
So not the whole meeting, maybe, but just the workshops could go in our calendars so we can see that.
Because there's some good discussion. We've gone round, like we've learned a lot out of that for the first, haven't we, community board wise, I think, so that's our first. Like, it'd be good for you to be there for that rather than we do something and then there's different ends and it's almost a waste of that conversation. If we haven't got long, let's do it all at the same time, it'd be better.
Well, there's your workshop. Where's the next one?
No,
Tuesday morning.
Tuesday.
Tuesday midday.
Yeah.
We'll get cake.
So are we adding anything else in or just leaving it as it is?
I'll probably just leave it.
Leave it as it is? Okay. So could we have someone move that, please? Okay, thanks, Neil. And a seconder, Cheryl, all those in favour? Against, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Jim, so.
Yeah.
There's a surprise.
I actually do.
You feel seen,
Okay, now we'll move on to item number 25.7.10, destination management update from Ants and Dylan. Ants, really.
You don't want to do a
You're a role person. Got some slides there, Wayne, and put up in a second, so which will cover off, the majority of pieces in the report, but it's much prettier with pictures. So this is an update on the work streams that we've been doing within the destination management and tourism team, and a bit of an industry update around our research and insights in the market. And really know about the share the opportunity. Thanks to you up there. So it's a reminder, the Central Otago Destination Management Plan is like the district vision that we were presenting earlier, looking at that long-term view of what we want Central Otago to be as tourism skills getting there. It's been broken down into 10 building blocks with a whole lot of activities underneath, and in the report there's some progress around some of the individual pieces that we have been working on. So that's the context of everything that we are doing and how we shape our marketing, with product development, with the partnerships and things like that. We currently explain. So we get quarterly market insight, market perception insight reports from Angus and Associates around views of tourism from our visitors. So just got some snapshots from the domestic market insights. There is more in the report. Key ones here that we've had a strong preference over the last year with drive markets, with Canterbury and Otago still being a key visitation. But a lot of interest in the North Island, but there has been challenges with various and costs of airfares. North Island is to Central Otago, but there is strong interest in New Zealand travellers. 32% of travellers who intend to travel domestically intended to come to Central Otago the next year. Our domestic market continues to skew to an older 60 to 69 in the report, kind of 45 plus if you broaden that out, coming in, joining our double trades, food and wine, and different camping and recreational opportunities. But continues to be that having a primary reason to visit is the #1 barrier. So events, weddings, connecting with friends and family is really important in finding those opportunities to encourage people to come. Those who have come in the last 12 months are very much positive about their experiences and completely positive word of mouth. So we continue to attract above the national benchmark in our Net Promoter Score. In the domestic markets, we're a plus 48 for those who have visited Central Otago in the last 12 months. So that's on our experiences, our operators and our community, and what they're doing to welcome visitors and deliver a great experience. Next one.
From Australia, which is our key international market, it will be almost fully domestic, especially with the connections into Queenstown, soon to come into Dunedin. We're primarily getting day visits from Australians who are coming into the surrounding area, coming and getting experience in Southern Central Otago, with only 3% of Australian travel staying overnight in Central Otago. There's a lot of opportunity in that Australian market, and I'll touch on some of the bits of the work that we're doing on that shortly. It has been skewed to New South Wales, and again, that's generally around flight connectivity, Queenstown. There's still a lack of awareness of what is Central Otago or where the region is. So again, building that up will in turn help attract more in. They do have good association of what Central Otago is famous for, especially our wines and building knowledge and awareness of our type of travel offering. 3 in 5 Australian travellers are planning to visit to New Zealand in the next 12 months, which is higher than previously.
The summer or winter? We have that information?
Not through this research. Tourism New Zealand's basis Australians will primarily come January till March and then winter. So obviously a ski hop or winter hop. So it's going to fill in the gaps of what Tourism New Zealand's referring to as off-peak. So lots of opportunity there. And our Australian visitors generally skew a lot younger. And again, that's probably reflected in that data if they might be coming for ski season, coming to a Central Otago for a wine experience or a Highlands Motorsport Park or something else that's just as part of or through. Next one, please. In terms of data on spend and employment, we've been referring mostly to the infometrics dashboards that council subscribes to. This uses a range of data to come through both the what's called text, tourism electronic card transactions, and previously the MRTAs. And infometrics have done some matching in there so that we've got longitudinal data because those data sets keep being turned on and off by central government, which is quite frustrating to accuracy. So in terms of employment, 1,585 people through to March 2024. These are delayed stats, so they only came out in January and February this year, or March 2024 as well. So like we say, in 2024, we won't get the 2025 stats until next year. So tracking above the national average in terms of percentage of employment in the tourism sector at 10.6 versus 6.4 nationally. Nationally is increasing faster, but they also didn't do as well or had more impact from the last few years of challenge and employment in the tourism sector. So they're kind of climbing back or even slowed down in growth, but it's still tracking above. Spend wise, in the bottom right, we're getting back to what was our previous mix between international and domestic spending, around 80% domestic spend, 20% international. This summer, we've seen a much softer domestic market, which has been challenging for many of our businesses, and that international isn't making up for it. Australian has been really good, especially for our cycle trails. We have seen and heard a lot of Australian voices out there, and that they have been spending, but it's not making up for the difference in that soft domestic market. But that trend is nationally occurring. So while it's concerning, we want, once that hopefully economy gets a bit more positive, we'll get that domestic visitation back and they'll buy bottles of wine rather than glasses of wine on their own and so on.
Has there been any one reason for that? And the information you got, like?
I think it's just the wider environment that people are in. People are being more cautious with their dollars. The price of holiday is more expensive for families, whether that is fuel costs if you're on the cycle trails and doing transfers and things like that. So people are finding ways of what they might still come and buy the rail trail, but they might say they don't get a lot of accommodation or only have one trip as well. So very expensive bed down Australia. Yeah, and that's again, the importance of Australia and our connectivity with Queenstown and specifically Dunedin, that the market who is able to fly from Australia has likely got a higher disposable income to come in.
And I think just there's a reality too, right? If you take a family on overseas holiday, say to the Gold Coast, you're there to spend money. Whereas if you take your family to Christchurch, you're going to go to the supermarket because you know the supermarket. You don't spend as much when you're in your own country. That's just human nature. So Australians are going to be a better spender. Any international business is going to be a better spender.
I know this is getting off track a wee bit, but have we noticed any difference when there has been airline flights that we've been leaving from Australia?
Have we
noticed a drop in tourism numbers since the airline flight went to Australia from Dunedin?
Well, they've been what gone.
Well, they haven't been. I mean, a part of, I guess what I'm saying is that you take a trail, a lot of people would come through Queenstown, fly back to Auckland. You can do the same regardless of going to Australia and back to Sydney. Hasn't made a difference to our tourism, not having the visas and that.
I don't know. I also, and I'm sure shortly, in terms of specifically targeting people to fly into the meeting, that's something I know that we haven't done as tourism to Otago in my time yet. Whilst with a target of the Australian, we haven't been like, right, here's a specific part of Australia that's going to have a new connection. How do we leverage that particular market? Swirling. So now we'll kind of go into some of the highlights that were covered off in the discussion section of the update report. So firstly, Tourism Central Otago and our approach to destination management was one of 6 case studies selected by Regional Tourism New Zealand to be profiled and have video and written case studies written up, especially around our engagement with our community and stakeholders and elderly, and both and RTF sitting in council and with our destination advisory board. So there is an 8-minute video which saves you the time today from having to watch. If you do want to watch it, it's online on the RTMZ website, which I can send the link out, also features disclaimer. And that's being used both to report back to MB around the investment MB put into destination management over the last 5 years, and also as case studies for the other regions to learn from each other. So that came out, or was launched at the Otago Tourism Policy Store in Queenstown about 3 weeks ago. That was written, next one, please, Wayne. Apply for a few of these. If you're flying or have been flying this month and picked up Kiora magazine, there's a fantastic feature on the beverage offering. This is the kind of work that Alan Mason's role does. So the FDR working with relationships with journalists and publications. So Alexia, who wrote this article that's been done to Teach Otago and hosted by us several times over the last couple of years, building out her knowledge so that she starts being used by many publications to be a key reference and line up articles on the region, which is absolutely fantastic. Also in the issue of Kiora was a feature on the Environmental Central Otago exhibition and launching in Dunedin and things like that. So that's now on folder that you're aware of. We've also done some partnership work with staff around our food and beverage articles on there. On the right hand side is an example of the Southern Way Collective. So this is the 8 Southern RTOs, which I've talked about before, working together to promote longer stay itineraries across the Lower South. This is supported by the 3 airports. So next week is the National Trends Travel Trade Show with international wholesalers coming to New Zealand. The 3 airports are sponsoring a booth at Trends. That's an example of what their booth's going to be set up as, around telling that story around in one airport out another, which is the campaign activity that Southern Way has received funding from $350,000 from the MB Regional Tourism Boost Fund to run a campaign targeted on the Gold Coast to support the new Dunedin flights. And that is all in draft at the moment, but the concept is focused entirely on into Dunedin out of Queenstown and spending multiple days in the regions as You do that to flying to Dunedin from the Gold Coast. And our Queensland has been supported by Jetstar and also the Gold Coast Airport to leverage their new flights. So it's pretty exciting. It's scale and campaign that during Central Otago will never do. Sunlight Earth, who's the project coordinator for that, has been very busy. Moving 4 airports because we've got our own ones plus the Gold Coast and all of these partners. So it's pretty exciting to see that come together and look forward to sharing that with you in the future.
So as part of the regional deals discussion, I know that's all about, is that was something that came up in any of those discussions? Dunedin and Queensland and being a regional, exactly that kind of climate.
So the airports have had their Southern Airports Alliance for 7 years between themselves, and then the RTOs developed the Southern Way campaign, and we're now partnering in that, and how do we take that and turn that into a consumer offering with a bit of travel trade as well, so working in with some of the inbound and wholesalers and how to package multi-day itineraries. In the Cycle Trail space, we continue to be the lead RTO with the Otago Trail marketing collaboration. So Jeff Marks in this role works across the 4 RTOs and 5 trail trusts, promoting Otago as the home of the best cycling experiences in New Zealand, not the world. And there's the Trail Hub website is a portal around creating content that kind of validates that claim and connects that back into how people, recreational cyclists, can travel to through the region and all of the different trails. And yeah, Jeff's doing a lot of work with different avenues, whether that's like Argent through stuff, partnering with film festivals, other activities that all of the RTOs and trusts have committed to continuing into the next year as well, finalising and review all about it, youth. Earlier in the year, we had an operator connect in Naseby alongside our Destination Advisory Board meeting. Photos from the Royal Hotel. One of the key pieces we had there as part of that, with the advisory board coming in, leveraging Shane Forrest on our advisory board, who's GM of Tourism in Hobbiton. He ran a session for about an hour on the story of Hobbiton and how they work with the international travel trade on a scale that is not seen in Central. Stu was there and getting numbers around that they were getting up around 700,000 visitors a year through Hobbiton, and they've actually kind of capped that and pulled it back so that they can manage that visitor experience. So whilst it's on a volume level that we don't see, it was really interesting to see how they are addressing that in all different markets and how they work with those. We also had advisory board updates, and we gave our operators update on our work with that. Recently, or about a week ago, we just coordinated some new photo shoots with one of New Zealand's top photographers back in Queensland, Miles Holden, who's traditionally done a lot of the work for Tourism New Zealand. We quite often struggle to get Tourism New Zealand to use our pictures because they're quite selective. So to try and encourage them, we're using the photographer that they use to try and open that door a little bit more. So had one day of shooting last week, beautiful autumn colours, which aligns with TZ wanting off-peak imagery to support shoulder seasons. We've got another day in a couple of weeks. So we go out to a few different venues, Barrett, Shadow Creek, in the packing shed in Burnsville, shops next week. So I'm just really been trying to lift that quality of how we present the region. These images are from the Net Places guide. So this was a partnership we started last year. It's an online and print guide to the Net Places as they classify them. So they curate, so we can suggest venues, but they would come in, the editorial team decide who fits what they classify as a Net Place. We had 31 venues featured last year. I believe we have been reading today, tomorrow, which is not great today, so hopefully tomorrow. and picking up another kind of 16 venues across the region with an updated guide in spring, bringing in a range of new businesses to that. These are just pretty pictures of cycle trails, but I think the piece that I wanted to reinforce here is the fantastic news we're getting from the trail trusts around the extension of the trail networks, so the Southern Links trails. There's some community update, well, stakeholder updates about a month ago that they're on track with the Carlisle Gorge Trail, and fingers crossed that, you know, that's going to be open definitely summer 25-26, if not this side of Christmas. And then the news that they've now got a signed agreement to fill the gap in the Oxford Gorge Trail, so that's going to be extremely significant for the Teviot Valley, and bringing that experience through for that full connection, which is that vision of the network. So really exciting to see that, and how do we support new and future businesses to leverage those opportunities. That's kind of one of the key things work that we're on that with our eye on. This one, please wait. And on that, so some of the key pieces of work that we've got in or coming up in our mind, we can't necessarily do all of these. We are a small team, small resource, but we can be trying to do it. So continuing those collaborations and partnerships that are critical to how we position ourselves with current marketing, Southern Way and Central Otago touring route, and building up that food, wine, beverage, hospitality, storytelling under the World Flavour banner. Continuing our work with the travel trade and industry development and business events, which will tie to what Ian and David have got with the Memorial Hall and Event Centre, and what is the role of Tourism Central Otago in supporting them, bringing that to life, leveraging Tourism New Zealand's work and how do we get value in that. Looking at what is the investment cases to support assets that will be needed. So touching on the cycle trails, touching on a new Memorial Hall and Event Centre, what we need around that to deliver a quality visitor experience in terms of public or private investment in additional assets. How do we inspire our visitors, both on the ground and digitally? We're really looking at what we're doing through our information centres and on our digital presence, and making sure that we're up to speed with the needs of consumers and travellers. And then our role in supporting a range of other community and council initiatives down there, the Come On Waihara Riverside Park, even more dark skies initiatives. So hopefully they've been getting positive news sometime this year around their accreditation. Then in the event space, the event framework around travel support events, bringing parts of that to life, leveraging opportunities like the government's regional tourism promotion fund. Just got a few applications in, it's seeking out that at the moment. Well, that I believe then my last slide is for well, one more, which is keep referencing this back to the whakatauki that was gifted to the Decommissioning Management Plan around Whititoa, Tina, Yamano, and Tikakata, that we've seen the strength of benefits, the contribution of the volunteers management, because that is the DMP. It's not tourism central cargo, it's our communities. It's about doing what's right for our community. So we are working to continue to facilitate that and support. That one.
That's an invaluable resource for the community, isn't it, for the region?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really been guiding light, obviously, for us as an operational level to really go down. And while I was chatting, I was playing with ChatGPT, just doing some statistics. Yeah, I was listening very closely to ChatGPT. So one of the things, and Tracy, thank you for asking for that information the other week around the differentials and then kind of that tourism spend change and economic development spend change. And one of the things that highlighted when I was doing that was you see, he good claims because he was employed around about 2014, 2015, but you see the lift all of a sudden tourism just kind of starts taking off.
So I think that. That was the message came before.
And so too is the resident population. Just start to see it just climb, and that rate is exponentially climbing every year. Obviously, COVID, there was one little blip in there, then it took off again, and there's no reason to expect that to slow down. And one of the stats I was just looking up was, I think I reported this back about 4 years ago, per resident, visitor spend 4 years ago was, I think from memory, around about $7,000 per person who lived in Central Otago. There'd be $7,000 spend. It's now sitting at $11,000 spend. So that's jumped significantly in around a 4 year period. We're in the top 10 then. I'm presuming that's going to keep us in the top 10. I don't know where it puts us. But as a comparative, Hawke's Bay is about $4,000 per person because of the spend. So you compare, we often look at ourselves as this small little region. Actually, we're pretty significant, certainly when it comes to tourism in other areas. So what we're seeing, this major event stuff that's coming through, we're going to get more of this. We're going to see more and more of this thing happening.
Dylan, could I ask a question around, as outlined in building block? I would have liked to see, I don't know how idealistic it is, a building block to encourage collaborative funding between the industry and council. Because I think that, unless you tell me otherwise, that was a goal which should be articulated.
Funding is one of the building blocks, funding investment, and how do we?
I mean, specifically vis-a-vis the tourist industry, because you do an awful lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had comment from tourist operators saying, I'd be quite happy to pay for this thing that I'm getting from council in specific cases. And I'm just wondering whether that.
So there's a couple of things. One is there is a differential that doesn't mean that they can pay more. As do retail, who are a beneficiary. The primary beneficiary of tourism spend goes to retail rather than tourism businesses. The other is, as you know, we've got this table and it's an ongoing conversation, that introduction of the visitor levy, which could also help assist. And I think that's probably the cleaner mechanism, because then it's a user type model.
Where the visitor levy picked up, it wasn't picked up in the border.
In a local visitor levy or essentially the exact speeches.
So therefore I would challenge that we've just pulled out of the coal market now.
Yeah.
Because the cost of doing business in the tourism industry is far too dear.
Yeah.
And employing 4 or 5 people, probably one of the largest accommodations providers in the rail trail, so I'm going to cut costs and make the business work. So you put a levy on it, it will absolutely kill the exact industry you're trying to keep. So I totally agree. If we want to market it, we market it, and you do what you do. But unless you have a flow, the Australian market has been the only market that's kept the rail trail business alive. If it didn't happen, then our tourism companies would have been going under.
Yeah.
Could I just, I mean, bed levies and so on, generic, excuse me, there's quite specifically, you do an awful lot to help tourist operators. And I would have thought that having some kind of objective to get some revenue raise from the interactions you have with the tourist operatives operating in this area could be something that could be articulated as a goal. I mean, I know we've talked about it before. I know that the industry operators contribute a lot in kind, which is hard to quantify. But at the end of the day, you do business seminars and other, and I would have liked to see some kind of focus on getting some revenue back for that.
And I think it's important to highlight too, they pay higher rates than everybody else. So it's not as though everybody's private houses are subsidising the tourism industry. So they do pay.
They didn't make that point, I accept it, but over and above that.
There is no, I can't remember the exact numbers in finance, mate. But I recall we had other revenue line in the tourism budget, and it sits around 100,000, which means there is additional revenue coming in that isn't base revenue. That's not all tourism.
Yeah, I mean, I
know your point.
I'm just really, I'd like to see it maybe slightly higher profile on that.
Yeah.
And focus.
So I guess the real risk for all of that, obviously involved in tourism, but it's a compliance cost and the lack of capital. If it wasn't for the rail trail operators putting their own capital in, there wouldn't be an industry. So there's been no government help, there's been no council help, there's been no, it's actually been individual people, like the jet boat started before, it was his own business that started that. And other people leveraging off it, I get. But it's at a very vulnerable stage now, and look at your own commercial town, not there. Hyde, not there, one pub and April, not there. The 2 or 3 more weeks of cafes and businesses will shut down because of economic reality. You haven't got the growth we've got. It's just sheer numbers coming out from Queenstown, this way they're doing it. But I think tourism is a really, really vulnerable stage right at this moment. The best of tourism is anyway.
Yes, I just clarify that last year's statement about people coming out of Queenstown, they should Central Otago and so on, just for it. That's not because of Queenstown.
No, they're coming through Central.
Right, yes, they may be coming.
It's the demographic for tourism has changed a wee bit the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's also coming into Dunedin.
Yeah.
Because of cheaper destination, New Central from the region near next door neighbours. So the real risk is we don't want to regulate ourselves, you have a market.
No, of course.
Because the people have got to spend that they used to have.
Yeah.
So picking up on what Nigel was saying too, it would be useful, and Tamer rightly pointed out, there's a large contribution, or there's a contribution, I don't know if it's large or not, made from the ratepayers in the space of tourism. But it'd be good to know those sort of numbers to find out just what is being funded from rates and the proportion coming from the operator space, because I think that'll give everybody a better understanding of saying this is not a free ride for one particular part of one particular business opportunity in the community. It'd be nice to have that understood by everybody.
And also the flip side to it is that we as residents of this district benefit from those tourists coming here because we have more wineries, more cafes. So we, as people that live in the district, have a better place to live as well.
Oh, before you take that, just a big photo.
Yes, Sally, you're right, and we often point to that. I mean, Cromwell, a community of 5,500 people in the town, 2 supermarkets, Alexandria the same, and that doesn't happen in other parts of this country. So those are amenities that our community enjoy because of visitors coming.
Yeah.
And Quebec, sit on the back.
Yeah.
You know about that, right?
It's been there. Don't let away the secrets. One under the shade, but.
Thanks, on.
Okay, so any other questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
We get back to the recommendations. Okay, so recommendation is that the report be received. I will move that and Craig will second it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And thank you.
Thank you.
You've got some talent today. I see. Thanks, Sally. All right.
With Tamer gone, now we have to have a new chair, so they won't have to with.
I'll move Tracy to be appointed as chair of the meeting.
I'll second it.
It wasn't way down up here. I didn't realise just how far it actually was.
You're closer to the river, so be very careful what you're saying.
Welcome, Garrett.
Different slip.
So we are now looking to keep this moving. We're now looking at 25.7.11 at page 288. Update on the criminal community hall.
So I'm going to do it quickly dirty since we've so long time. Our project is on track and on budget, but I would like to bring your attention to the last page of the report, where we've got some sustainability stuff.
Yes.
Now that love, and basically the project generated about 37 odd tons of waste, and approximately 1/3 of that is only sent to the rest of it upcycled and recycled. And it just goes to show we vet our contractors really stringently. You get a good contractor that believes in sustainability and they actually have an environmental manager on site, the development project manager. And they drive this really hard, and this just goes to show how good it is to get great people with great contractors on project managers. I have got some photographs that I took yesterday, which Wayne is going to quickly bring up. I'm gonna stand up to that when I do. Of course, it gets me like David, I get to talk. I've lost for you tonight. I know there's lots of love there.
So that's
We're
what.
gonna find it quickly. So if we go to the first one, Wayne,
So,
up at the top,
is that
is that that one? Okay.
Yeah.
This is just giving you a bit of a visual on how much structural steel is going in. This position is in the auditorium. We're 99% complete with structural steel, and effectively the roof starts getting installed next week. Go down to
Garrett, just those concrete slabs, about sustainability, where they sourced from.
I like it in, yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
They've been a long way.
You just want to put your hand up.
Thank you.
This is just another, so this is, I've taken two photos on different angles. The other one I'll be standing up here. That is the control room. Right, so the mezzanine level has been poured, and the next, well, one of the photos that I'll show you is actually standing on that mezzanine level. So as if you're in the control room, looking down into the future stage that will be installed. Go down, Wayne. That's me turning around on the mezzanine level and looking out at the view. What $1 million view, right? And that's what we're really capturing with this building as well.
We have $45 million.
They can be worth $1 million.
0.8.
Wait.
It's $1 million. Get out there, mate. So I'm standing in the mezzanine level here, looking down on the stage. That's where the stage will be. Gate of house is over there, and you can just see I mean, it's you guys went on site. It is quite daunting walking in there, and to think in 15 odd months it's going to be all cleared and blacked out, and there'll be a stage in there. It's going to be fantastic, right? So it was really exciting.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Taylor Swift.
Local band.
From the mezzanine level, there's the staircase going down in there, but I just thought it was a nice look because the roof is complete over the community centre and on the museum, and the skylights have already been installed. It's really, it just shows that this building is starting to advance and actually come to fruition. We are hoping within a month and a half, the building to be completely dried in. Go down, I think this is the last one. The first window, I don't know if you can zoom in on that one. That's the first window and it's been installed. So this is your main entrance before you're walking in, there's the code. And I found out yesterday as well. So I spent a long time on the site with the architects and construction partners. So there's laser cut etching that's going to be installed in the code. And then there's a prominent head top that's going to be installed as well. So it's going to even look different to what it's looking at the moment. And I did ask because I'm a little bit of a construction nut. This is no bearing on structural. So they can mess around with this quite a bit and get it to really look the part without affecting a structural integrity of the building. I think that was it, right? Yeah. So really exciting space. Contingency has been spent up to 1.6. That's exactly where we thought it would be. There is a few quirks that are coming through at the moment. There's nothing to be concerned about, and we are checking really well. It's very happy with the progress.
We still got our understanding.
Absolutely, Stu. We're going to forget that.
That was loud and clear.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Neil?
Gareth, I note the contingency at 1.6, which is 3.5% of the total budget so far. And then your comment says that variations are being monitored carefully as we complete in-ground works. I guess the in-ground works I would have thought are complete, aren't they?
They are done now. So it's just a statement that is made because the in-ground works were where the biggest
risk was.
Yeah.
I'd be quite keen to understand and in future reports to see what the contingency is actually being spent on to understand what's caused it, whether it's design issue, oversight, whatever, something not picked up, just to get a feel, because no matter what, 3.5% so far. I'm not sure what the total contingency is. It's a big number, and it's important to understand, just saying, how efficient and effective have we been in this contract and with what we've got in it, see where the shortcomings might be for us to understand.
100%, we've got a complete list of all the contingency spent, and when we do lessons learned, that's when we'll start bringing that up.
Hopefully give us themes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's just the key things.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Anybody else? No, I just have a couple of questions. You refer to external funding and a couple of grants that you've obviously applied for. Have you got a plan B if they are declined?
Maybe sell more land.
Okay.
So effectively, when we got the insight from the excellence funders, they basically, without committing to it, said that this is something that they would fund. So effectively, we've got quite a large number from CLT so far. We looked at just shy of 1.8 million, which was CPI adjusted, in 1.4. Additional 1.1 million for the museum fit out, playground and landscaping. We're expecting another 1 million out of lotteries, 500,000 electrifications, and the unknown factors OCT is I just don't understand it. But Jen, David, and we're in a good space, and we always knew when we pitched the external funding right from the beginning. I don't think we had listed this amount. It was sitting at about 2.5 million. So we've actually overachieved that in there.
I think just tries museum components sort of set. So we're building a building, and then the museum fit out is coming through grant. So essentially, if we don't get some grants, we don't get fit out. Essentially, plain and simple. So we've got 1.1 towards that. We're pretty confident on the next sort of 500 towards that, and then anything else would just be great. We get spent on landscaping, playgrounds, and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I think this relates to your part, Gareth, in relation to the recycling, and which absolutely is amazing. I love that part. But you say that the part of the Naylor Loves waste diversion efforts, you did that for small businesses to reuse. It was done in Queenstown. Is there any reason why it wasn't done locally?
So that was over a spectrum of their projects. It's not just in this one.
Okay, so that was not just this project. Okay, thank you. I just didn't quite pick that up. So thank you very much for that. Okay, that's me. Anyone else? No? Okay. Let's go back to me. Okay, so just that the recommendation is that the report be received. Can I have a thank you, Sarah? Thank you, Nigel. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gareth. Good work. Okay, next 25.7.12. Welcome, Donna. And the end for a forecast 2 for the changes for the 24-25 financial year.
Thank you for having me. I take the paper as being read. This report considers the second forecast for this financial year and includes forecast changes and estimated capital expenditure projects that will be carried forward to the next financial year that we are aware of at this point in time. After the first 6 months of the financial year, the departments have assessed their activities and forecasted for the year-end balances for both operational and capital budgets. For the operational budgets, the revenue and expenditure, the overall operating revenue has increased by 1.89 million and operating expenditure has increased by 1 million. For capital expenditure, there has been a decrease in the expected capital project budgets for the financial year by 3.7 million. Of this, 2.7 million of these projects are expected to be carried forward to the 25-26. $1,000 of expenditure being reduced from the total revised budgets in this financial year. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I noticed, Donna, that you said the revenues increased by 1.89 and then there's been a corresponding increase in the expenditure by 1.74. Was the opportunity looked at to where we could, dare I say, for the want of a better word, bank that increase in revenue as opposed to then spending it?
So looking through a lot of the forecasts, it was increased expenditure, which also generated an increase in revenue. So there's a cost inside.
Yeah, that's the answer. I wanted to confirm it's what I thought, what I read, but I wanted to make sure I was on the right track.
Anybody else? No. Okay. Anything from you, asking in relation to this? Okay. Right, so the recommendations are that A through C receives the report and accepts the level of significance, authorises the second 24-25 revised operating budgets as in table 1, and authorises the second 24-25 capital projects revised budget in table 2. Can I have someone to move that, please? Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Nigel. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks, Donna. Okay. 25.7.13, page 300, the Te Korowai program. Wayne.
Cool. Thank you very much. Just go to the agenda and make sure I cover everything off. So the Te Korowai program is, of course, the new name for council mark. And so we're now working on the questions that form that that assessment. And let's go to the thing. So what I've got there is our timeline. So yeah, at this stage we're evidence gathering, so what happens is that we have a series of questions. They go off to various people in the organisation, and they answer them. Then they come back to us, the organising group. And there are some questions for elected members. And so what we would like to do is set up a small working group to represent the wider council to answer those questions. So we'd like to do that. The Te Korowai assessment team are going to be on site the 27th and 28th of August. They'll start with a session with yourselves, and we'll set that up to coincide with the council day. So they'll meet you first thing. After that, we can continue on with the council meeting. They'll go away and continue on with their work for the rest of the time they're here. So what we're hoping for is 2 or perhaps 3 elected members who might like to be part of our little working group. I've asked Tamer if she would be available, and she is. So I'd like to recommend, I don't know, invite Tamer to be part of the group. So would there be any other folk who are interested in being part of that group?
Okay, so sorry. Oh. Does anyone have any burning desire to be on the I guess the steering group, or as in the there is also, when we look at the options, there is the option for all councillors to be involved. Does anyone have a feeling either way, or are you happy for a steering group to be set up? Steering committee, I should say. Anyone got any thoughts? Steering committee? Probably. Sorry, Neil.
I was just saying, trying to get all the councillors in the same place, the same space, same times, like herding cats potentially.
Okay, so
Would anyone like to put their hand up for that? And then ideally we'd have Tamer plus a couple. I'm happy to do that. If Martin?
Yeah, or not.
Okay.
Just in terms of timeframes, the staff comments, we're trying to collate them all by the end of May. And then there's quite a review process. Obviously, Peter needs to be comfortable with it, Tamer, and then it'll come to all of you. So we need to allow time for that review process. So essentially this has to be all done end of June, is that correct, Wayne? Yeah, end of June. So just in terms of councillor availability.
So you need June.
Well, ideally, when we get up to the review process, obviously Peter won't be changing the amendment responses.
Not a half day, you're talking an hour or two.
But I'm quite.
I'm going to be away, so that's,
yeah. Hand up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
so
it's not going to be intensive at all.
Sally and Martin?
Just be a timing availability.
Can I just ask, Wayne, this came about because some residents and Alex came to the council a few years ago insisting that, well, asking us to do this. And then LG&Z sort of put the original program to one side, and this is the new program which has come up.
Yep.
Have we had any communications back to them or from them?
With the original.
No, I was just thinking maybe it wouldn't hurt from a PR point of view to let them know what we're doing.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll do that.
I don't know why we're doing it anyway. I don't know why we're doing it anyway. We're busy enough doing stuff that wasting staff time, our time, everything else. For something.
We've already made the decision to do it. So,
wrong decision, not time to relook at it.
Yeah. So, okay, but that's fine. The only question that I have is, and this is obviously in relation to the elections, we're not going to be caught with any brownout period or anything like that.
No.
But that's not going to make any impact whatsoever.
No.
There's no decision being made
No.
as part of it. So it's information gathering. You're reflecting on your views of the state of council in that interview process. They're going to go away and with the interviews and all the written material, they're going to form their assessment, what should be provided to the new council to decide, you know, what to focus on and the areas, etc.
Okay, so any further questions? No? Right. Okay, so the recommendation is that we receive the report and accept their level of significance. And B, appoints councillors to a working group to look at the elected member questions on behalf of council, and those persons shall be Sally, Martin and Tamer. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Sally. Sarah, second. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, and 25.7.14, page 303, the proposed remit to LG&Z in relation to the security systems payments.
Yep. So this is a remit which is being proposed to go to LG&Z for their general meeting. In the attachment, you'll see the details of all that. And so we need to gain the permission. Is that right? The anyway, you know, the agreement of the council in order to take that to the next step, which is the zone level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Questions?
Thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess this obviously, because it's going to LG&Z through zone meeting by Tamer, she's going to need a clear mandate from us whether we support this or not. Obviously, there'll be requirements to make sure that you know, if a councillor felt, or an elected member, sorry, felt that they needed this type of things put into their home, they'd obviously have to, there's a process they would have to follow.
And
it's not simply as just saying, can I have
and it will need to go through the remuneration authority as well, as part of all the different allowances and whatnot that elected members are allowed to claim. I wouldn't expect you could just roll up and, you know, get $100,000 security system and all the bells and whistles. That's certainly not going to be a thing, but I imagine what would happen is the remuneration authority would say, you know, you can put X amount towards things. Yeah, like they do with a variety of the other ones.
It'd be like the childcare type ones and those other ones that are contained in the determination the authority release, isn't it? Well, that sort of be in that sort of league. So, you know, and it'd be something that's available to all. But the simple fact is that it's going to have to be funded by only one source, which is effectively the community, the ratepayers. You know, you've got to ask the question that it should ever come to this in Central Otago in particular is sort of beyond belief, but it probably reflects the society that we're living in today, where not only can you have a crack on social media, you can do it by trying to intimidate people in their private lives, which is getting far more prevalent. And it's a crying shame and a sad indictment on some of the people in our community.
Thank you, Neil. That probably sums it up quite well.
Isn't this a police issue?
Well, yes. It would become a police issue, but what this is in relation to is the ability to have a home security. And it's not saying you have to have it, it's just putting it in there is in the ability.
Whilst you're an elected member.
Yes, but you're not going to necessarily take it out at the end, are you? Because it'll be it's a second hand by that stage.
And I was going to say, and the other thing to think about here is that this is just a thing initially to go to LGNZ to say, hey, what do you reckon about this? It could be rejected there.
Yes.
You know, it's just a case, do you support it enough to go to the next level to see what might come from it?
Okay.
And this came from local Brazil.
No, this it's come from, it's
agreement.
Agreement. So it's like a joint idea between Taylor and the Mayor of Far North District Council to try and get it into to be discussed at the LGNZ conference. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, it's relevant to Central.
Without going too much into it, it is relevant to Central Otago.
Yeah. So Wayne just said that it is relevant to Central Otago.
A camera on your doorstep records an interaction of somebody that turns up, like things being put into your personal mailbox for submissions. And that's happened, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Ian? Good. And a seconder, Sally? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
those are the best thing.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, I did actually say the recommendations, but that's great, thank you. And the next one, where are we? Yeah, so you can lead that one.
Yep.
This way.
Yep. Okay, so the next one's the LGNZ conference and AGM. So that is, sorry, first of all, total box up, sorry about that. I'd put in that it was the 16th to the 27th of July. It's one hell of a conference. No, it's not.
It'll just feel.
It's different, it's definitely different in my diary.
It's the 16th and 17th.
Yes.
July. And I was, and the annual general meeting usually follows, so it'll be the 17th. So yeah, total bollocks up. Sorry about that.
That's right.
No, you're not going on like a 2-week junket to take in the sites or anything. But what this report is just to have the council approve for the mayor, deputy mayor, and one councillor to attend that conference in Christchurch, and then to approve Tamer and to be the presiding delegate and Neil the alternate delegate at the AGM. Well, we need to figure out if he's a councillor first.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you are.
So I know there was an expression.
I'd like to nominate Tracy for the role.
Are you the only one?
Yeah.
Okay, so-
Happy to do that. Go for it.
All right, cool.
Especially if it's 2 weeks.
I've got news for you, and it's all bad. It's not 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I have penciled that in as a placeholder,
Okay.
not 2 weeks.
Get into it.
Okay, so Right. Mayor's report.
Oh,
sorry.
mover and seconder for that?
Sorry, yes, of course. Mover and a seconder.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you, Martin.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was going to say sheriffs. Sorry, Lindley. Two gorgeous ladies sitting over the table.
Good recovery, good recovery.
Right, okay. Mayor's report, we will, at page 313, 25.7.16, we'll take that as read because her worship is not here to answer anything in particular. So, and then Wayne, it's back to you. 25.
I'll move.
Oh, yes, sorry, I've got to move that one too because she's not here. Pardon me. Thank you, Neil.
Right.
Thank you, Martin. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Against carried. Right.
Yep.
Governance report.
Well, just arrived just in time.
Craig. Look at
So
okay, welcome, Craig.
Is that the time?
That's how good the timing. Perfect timing.
Yep.
And Nick. So welcome,
Yep.
Craig.
So part one of the governance report is the status updates. So look at those, and then the second bit is Craig talking about Mayor's task force for jobs.
Yes. Have a seat. Have a seat. We're just going to go through the status reports, and then you're, but might as well just sit there and be fine. Okay, status reports.
Yep. So is there anything in particular?
Any questions?
Just the council owned land, the Pines. It's taken a long time, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, but it must almost be there.
Final water is still to be done. Yeah.
Just on that, will we at some stage get a report showing our profit and loss situation on that whole development, how it's been complete?
A review of it?
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be good. Finalised stuff. Back up on it.
Yeah,
But yeah, we do a review of how it means and all that.
yeah, and I think, you know,
Yeah.
we probably need to go to Vincent first, then come to council,
Yeah,
and that is,
right, well, I'll take the notes and the governance.
yeah, that's great.
Any further questions on status reports? Okay. So I'll move that now.
Oh,
Shall I? Or just wait till Craig's here? Yeah. Okay, right. Sorry.
Sorry, no. There's a report on the third way for the option construction new ways to build a plant sale site on council land adjacent to the Alexander Airport, and that is at the moment sitting on hold. I haven't talked to Julie, but I just wonder whether that should be deleted, no longer relevant, or whatever the correct process is. It's a question to go back to start again.
Yeah, thank you.
I did have one comment, sorry, about 332, the airport looks great. Resurfacing. Was up there the other day, it looks fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, team did a great job.
Yeah,
It's
really good.
Service, it's down, so I think the radio yesterday around type of service down, so I think we have budget of $1 million to redo that, and the total cost was $470. That's what we pushed that, so. Yeah. As well.
Have we had any feedback from the actual users of it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, usually you would hear if it's bad, but have we had any feedback to say that it's been?
Well, all I knew was that on the Sunday, after it was finished on Saturday, the team had all of it coming saying with the no tag lifted, so we could get back into it, and the best bit of feedback you can have,
Fantastic.
Stuff, so,
Yeah. It's very dark and, you know, the colour of it's a lot. Yeah, it just looks fresh.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I've used it, but even on bigger airports, so like Mumbai International Airport has it as well. So you can see how it stands up over the next 2 or 3 decades.
Good idea. That's what longevity.
What's that?
Right, any further questions? Right, great, Nick.
That was great.
Welcome.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa for Kotoran to Papawangai, for Central Otago to Kaina, Mayor's Task Force for Jobs Coordinator, or in Central Otago District Council, for Craig Gilchrist, to Te Ingoa, Tēnā tātou katoa. My name's Craig Gilchrist. I'm the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs Coordinator, and thank you for the invite to come today to share the work that we're doing with this really awesome initiative and also update you on some of the progress that we've been doing over the last 18 months now, isn't it? So, thank you. Do I just little nod? Thanks. So, what is the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs? So, officially, it's this nationwide network of mayors across the whole country that working together with the idea of trying to get all young people aged 16 to 24 engaged in our communities in employment, education and training. Very much sort of funded, so the councils are funded by the Ministry of Social Development, so all the funding comes from the MSD. My role is funded by the MSD, so we work in partnership with local government New Zealand and the Ministry of Social Development. And the reason they fund councils is the strong belief that we as councils can understand our local communities, so we can very much have a local response. So we have a lot of autonomy to go out there and figure out how to actually find and engage young people and employers and match them into employment. Specifically, I work with what's called NEETs, or at-risk NEETs. So that's those who are not in employment, educational training, or those who are at risk of becoming NEETs. So they may be working in some casual roles which are coming to an end, or they might still be at school but not super engaged, and there's a risk that they're going to end up unemployed. So that's my cohort. And the idea is I can help these young people. Well, I'll get to that a bit later. So there's lots of ways I can support those young people to become fully work ready if they're not already there, help them engage them, help them into employment, which benefits our communities, gets them on the right track, makes them positive contributions to their community, and hopefully keeps them within the district. Thank you. So our journey, it was actually Nick and Tim originally managed to get the funding for this pilot program back in February last year. We were given about 7 months, I believe, to sort of prove the model and show that there was a need for it in Central Otago, and we're pretty excited come August. That was recognised with the success that we've had. So we managed to secure funding until the end of June this year, and the decision around the funding for the further 12 months is imminent. We should find out about that in the next, hopefully in 2 or 3 weeks. So pretty exciting. And just something to note, sort of from my point of view, is the NEETs. A lot of the NEETs that we deal with are what's called the hidden NEETs. So even though our statistics, we don't have super high unemployment relative to some other districts, with official statistics, but we have discovered there's quite a lot of those young people that they're not on a benefit, they're not enrolled in other agencies or support services, but they are sitting at home unemployed. And so, I think that's partly where the need is in our community, is to support those young people. So where do we fit in the council? So we are obviously the mayor and CEO. It starts with the mayor. But we come under the community division, economic development, and so I work alongside closely with Nick and Bill in that department, which is really awesome. But real key to the success, I think, is the collaboration that I've had with other departments and other colleagues across the council. Been really pivotal working with all these people to really help promote the program, to help with some strategies around how to find and engage young people, introduce them to other community groups, employers, connections, and all those kind of things. So, that's been a really important part of the initiative. part of the model we came up with when we started was this advisory committee. So this is a selection of sort of stakeholders in the community that have all vested interests in our work and also can bring a lot of advice and guidance to the table. So this is the mayor, Nick and myself on there, and we have representatives from the local youth trust, the business side, the Central Title Read, Ministry of Social Development, and we meet every sort of 3 to 4 weeks and have a little brainstorm, to put updates, think about other ways we can get out there and promote initiative. And crucially, also a lot of liaising with the local schools to try and catch those at-risk young people as they are potentially looking at leaving school out that way. So it's pretty cool. So the nuts and bolts of what we do in the ground, so a whole bunch of stuff we can offer job seekers, a whole bunch of stuff we can offer employers, funding is part of it. Though I think a huge part that I think makes this program so special and quite unique, I think, is we really tailor it to the individual job seeker. So it starts with a conversation, it starts with working out what are the barriers to employment, figuring out how we can actually work through those, and then make a plan, and then we can go out there and figure out what support they actually need. Some need a lot of intensive support, some just need a little bit of support, but the goal is always to reduce those barriers and help them into employment. And usually that pastoral support, the offer there is to keep that going once they're in employment. And like some young people, it's been really straightforward. They got into work day one, they're flying, they really don't need much support anymore. Some it's been a much less linear approach. It hasn't sort of always worked out. There's been a few hurdles along the way. So I've got that pastoral support there that we can keep going for pretty much as long as is necessary. So hopefully make those placements sustainable as well. So yeah. So success to date. So we're pretty proud of these stats actually. We've had, since we began, we've got 19 into permanent full-time employment roles. And they are the roles that are officially counted against our KPIs when you report to the ministry. And we're contracted for. We're actually 1 full-time placement away from meeting our targets, and there's a few young people I'm working with as well. So we're feeling pretty, we're actually good about that at the moment. But then also part of that, part of those stepping stones to come into these full-time roles is we've got quite a few into casual, seasonal, fixed-term roles as well, which is really good at building up those employability skills and work experience, the references, when it goes well, and to hope the stepping stones into eventually a full-time long-term placement. Yeah, and the number of people on my books sort of fluctuates right now, around 12, and I'm supporting, which goes up and down a little bit throughout the year. But I've always worked through that. He's always in people there. So. And there's just a list of a few of the barriers there as well, which sort of confidence is quite a big one to getting people started. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that we can support through, including environments like the same, which especially if you're in trades, that's quite a big thing to support. This is just more some photos and some screenshots of some of the stuff that we've been up to, and some of the young people that are out there learning new skills and training and thriving in their roles. And we've had 2 pretty significant media releases that all the local outlets have run with, which has been really exciting. So, thanks. Oh, and this final, second to last slide is sort of my appeal to people, everyone in the room here is, we'd love you to try and support in some way. And the really big thing is spreading the word. I mean, we do drop-in sessions, we advertise, we have a website, but really absolutely by far the most referrals have come through word of mouth. Engaging with other community groups, spreading the word with employers to try and find vacancies, you know, I do want to hold for actually, you know, the business practice as well, if you find opportunities before they're advertised. If you know young people, they may be employed or at school, but they may have friends that are sitting at home and not doing anything, and encourage them to reach out. And parents and grandparents have been really key to finding young people as well. So that's my thing. Pitch to you guys. Thank you. It would be awesome if you help to help. Yeah, there you go. And 3 weeks.
Yes, so how strong are your links with the secondary schools?
Yeah, so with Dunstan very strong. I actually worked there for 13 years, so I've got pretty good connections there. So I've had lots from, well, a few from Dunstan, and I've had a few from Cornwall College. Yeah, and I think maybe 1, 2 from Manchester. Yeah, as well. 2 from Oxford, which is.
So do you actively interact with any specific people in the school, or?
Yeah, so yeah, January Gateway careers people or one of the actually.
And so you're saying you've got 12 clients at the moment?
Yes, but none of the ones currently are still at school. Yeah, majority have left school and don't. So the ones who are in school, they need to sort of been identified as there is a potential they could become.
And so what's the criteria that we to access your help? Is there an age?
Well, the government is 16 to 24, so I can't work with under 16-year-olds. They have to be able to, that's a legal thing, they have to consent themselves at 16 to work with me. So 16 to 24 is the bulk of what we're funded.
Okay, and in your mind, have you got any idea about how big the pool of people with your criteria is in Central Coast?
Well, it's actually a really interesting question. So I'm correct if I'm wrong in there, but the last stats that came through from the MSP was the around 94 megawatts, wasn't it, between 18 and 24. So that's the official number.
It's only 24. It's a really hard one to quantify, Nigel, because they just, a lot of these youth, if they're not getting, if they're not in trouble with the place, or if they're not on a benefit, they're not getting caught statistically. And so we just don't know. So the 94 is a best guess from economists, basically. So it could be more, it could be less.
And is 12 sort of reaching the maximum that you can handle?
Oh, no, it really depends on how much they're engaging with me as well. So there's really no figure about. It depends how engaged they are. Because so some stay engaged, and it's really, it's not straightforward, you know, but it's you know, they like work with them regularly, and they're always happy to talk, and some sort of come a little bit depending on the barriers that they've got going in their personal life. Yeah.
My observation would be that the schools, from what I've ever really picked up earlier, the education system does not pick up kids who don't meet the curriculum idealism of the school. 86% of secondary agricultural base, and none of it's been taught in the school. None of the viticulture is not taught, engineering is not taught, building is not taught. And the hardest thing for kids is to get a license, and they fail their license because they failed it because someone took them around the road to get 2 more times, they feel like they failed it and understand confidence. But it's too hard to do that as an employer. The last thing you want to take is some kid who doesn't want to pay attention going to work because they read through some gear and read something they need done. Your infrastructure, your need up to the health and safety compliance. If the word hit by compliance and all that other stuff, people will take kids on from school, and probably the ones that are the most vulnerable, the underage 16, because they can't comply with school either. And years ago, they'd be chucked in the shearing gang, or they'd be in the shearing gang, they'd go out for the day to go to work, not get school. So it's a really tricky one. But for an employer, it's really hard employing someone who has got a skill set. But having driving licenses is one of the most important things for kids to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
A, it gives them confidence to be independent, and B, they can go to the workplace and rely on the mum and dad and the embarrassment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes it so hard.
And I would have thought that an improvement to the model is that we as an agency act as the employer. That's a really good barrier. Yeah, employers given potential downsides when the situation goes wrong.
It's tough, getting.
Whereas you can act legally as the employer You take a lot of fish, you'll open up job opportunities all over the place.
And the other thing is your contract, we've got such a large contracting base here that actually the first port of call if you're an employee and if you've ever got a contract employment for council, then you should be opening up the door to some of this stuff.
So,
It's part of your regular, it's part of your consent process to come to us. So if we're fault holding down with any of those others, you've got to start opening the door to some of this stuff as a part of the conviction.
One, I was gonna say, just the Nigel, and possibly your comments last year. One of the great things about Craig, is the relationships that he develops, not just with the needs, he's very good at that, but coming from an education background, but also the relationship with the employers. And that's really important, because you've got to have the right connection, and he's lining up the right need with the right employer. And that's critical, because otherwise the thing fails and people lose faith in it, and that's one of the critical things Craig's really done.
But you're
Very
really
lucky.
tough year.
Yeah,
It is very tough.
but no, but thanks to them, yeah, that's something I try really hard, and, you know, you don't always get it right, because the truth will be, once the young person starts going to work, and it's down to them at the end of the day, but we try really, really hard to get.
Majority of those people be boys.
No, interestingly, it's a black 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do spend a lot of time with this, expectation, isn't it? Yeah, it's like working with the young person, but also helping with the employer too, that, it's good patient with the sides.
Yeah, I'm always going to have to be honest with you. When everyone that works with me has a barrier of some sort, someone that is literally building with confidence, and that's fine, and still with the right environment. Others is quite more significant, and you've got to be open with employers and make sure they're comfortable to.
So the support will continue for that side of the employment, as the employer and the community. That's a some of the kids that are coming from school, are you finding that they don't have perhaps the same level of education that perhaps they should have at that age?
It's a little bit mixed, yeah, I do have, for quite a few that have come through that, level one, instead of just level one, but, you know, they've left very early, but I actually do have quite a few come through with NCA too, which, that's, the education is great to have that, but that isn't, you know, that's not a be all and end all, it's the other skills around employability and motivation and confidence and, and that kind of thing, that's more what values in education, I think,
Sarah?
Yeah, I know a bit about the Pathways program that the schools run, and I guess yours is kind of a similar kind of thing for that next age group. I'm just wondering if there's any correlation between those kids that are going through the pathway. So the schools are running the under 16s, they're doing stuff, much more practical training for, particularly Cromwell College. I know the boys are out there building a hut at the moment, because they're learning in maths through measuring the apple and that kind of thing. So they're getting the school stuff, but the practical stuff.
Is that co-op?
So yeah, it's called Pathways now, it's not co-op anymore, but it's the, the general partner runs through the two, through Cromwell and Dunstan. But is that, well, I know they're different ages and different targets, but is that working, doing what it's doing, that you're not seeing those kids leaving school and coming and still being kids that you're having to pick up? Or
I think to give credit to Kayak, I think they actually do a good job. They are part of the solution in terms of early intervention, absolutely. There's limited spaces in Kayak, and they've also, I don't want to say the wrong thing, because I'm not quite sure what the funding model is going forward, but they had this year, they lost some of that funding, so asking if they lost that funding.
Oh, they're not involved. I thought they just reduced it, right?
No, and as far as I'm aware, I think probably that's doing their own thing.
Yeah, maybe that's what I call Pathways now with Jenna and with the funding and stuff here.
No, I
is that something that you could work more? So I was thinking that funding, listening to it as a school parent, you know, it wasn't my kid this time, but it might be next time, knowing that those opportunities are limited. They're getting older and later before we can catch them. Like, we kind of need a few layers. But is that something you see working closer together over the future, that like they're that first layer of kids that they identify, maybe they don't quite fit, or there's not room for them in that, but they're on your radar earlier, so we are multi-layer in that?
Yeah, I think the scope for that, and we have to tread a bit of a line here in terms of the expectations in our contract with the MSD, well, with LG and Z, and that can fluctuate a little bit. We've actually been specifically not to go into schools and on programs, right? It used to happen before 89, having it that used to happen in other districts, and they categorically said that's not what it's about. The ones who are installing needs to be quite clearly identified and at risk in some sort of, yeah, so so I love what you're saying, and I love that model. It just depends a little bit.
That's like ambulance model with that, right?
Well, and I will suggest is the topic, and I think a lot of.
Yeah,
we
just
debate-
that, not necessarily an intervention, but just the earlier you identify those kids and they're on a radar for, at some point, they may or may not enter a program that isn't education. 40% of kids go to uni, I think was the stat we were given at school today. So actually the ministry model of education delivery is only really suiting 40% of kids these days. So if that's less than half of the kids going through school, what are we doing for the others to learn?
I don't know.
Those programs with the funding being cut, like what you're doing is great, but it's just going to get worse and worse if we don't do something more. And I don't know what that something is, but all these programs.
Right, just keep this moving, and we could go round and round steps, and I'm sure Craig would be quite happy to chat about this for a very long time. Excuse me. So,
but I think it's important because there's a gap in the community that's not being picked up.
so let's just leave it. We're not going to fix that right this minute.
Well,
We're
yeah,
just in the
that
interest of time. We will keep it going. So, Craig, unless anyone's got any pertinent questions for Craig, I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for the work that you do. And I know that Tamer is literally your biggest cheerleader. So great job with that.
So more time talking.
Right, okay. So we'll just, thanks Craig, thanks guys. I'll just get someone to move that the report be received.
I'll do that.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. And a seconder, thank you, Cheryl. All in favour? Against? Carried.
He wants us to ask.
Look, I'll bring out a big kettle whip soon. Right, okay, where are we? The community board minutes. Anything arising from those that we need to,
I'll move over accepted.
anyone, we can go take those. Yeah,
And-
the whole lot, we'll take them as a whole suite.
Yep. And assessment committee minutes.
Yes, and the committee minute, no, excuse me, the committee minutes.
Yeah.
Right, can I have a mover, please, for those? Oh gosh, there's lots of hands up. So who will be it? Martin and Sally, thank you very much. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Date of the next meeting is the 8th of May.
Next week.
Which is next week. I was just going to say, that's really soon.
That's only for an hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
For the other.
That's for.
Well, it depends who's in the chair, I think.
Well, yeah, might only be 30 minutes, okay?
That's a little would have done well.
Yeah, I like it would have done well on the 8th of May.
Yeah.
So,
Between the three.
Is there a Teams invite for that already?
No, there's not, but there will
Could
be.
you, yeah.
Oh, no, there's not. No, for the live, no. But yeah, it is.
Well, it is in our account.
Yes.
Yeah, it is, yeah, cool,
Yeah,
you can join it, I can't get the, that's.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing.
cool. Okay, and for the reasons given on page 382, I'm going to resolve to exclude the public for the, it's for me. Thank you. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Nigel. All those in favour? Against? Carried. I'll just give Wayne a couple of minutes to do his thing. Oh, 2-second break?